Good afternoon, everyone. I am Moceros. For the continuation of our report, I will discuss about the steps of emergency management. This is the outline of my report. First is what is emergency. Second, what is the meaning of emergency management. Third, steps of emergency management. And last is goals of emergency management. Now, what is emergency? Emergency is an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action. It is also about unplanned event that can cause deaths or significant injuries to the public or that can disrupt operations, cause physical or environmental damage, or threaten the financial standing of businesses and institutions. The following are some types of the emergency. First is fire. Second, medical. Third, hazardous chemical release. Fourth, bomb threat. Fifth, violence. Six, weather events. And 7, power utility failure. And last is natural disaster. Now is what is the meaning of emergency management? Emergency management, it is the managerial function charged with creating the framework within which communities reduce vulnerability to hazard and cope with disasters. Emergency management has vision. The vision is emergency management seeks to promote safer, vulnerable communities with the capacity to cope with hazard and disasters. The mission is about emergency management protects communities by coordinating and integrating all activities necessary to build, sustain, and improve the capability to mitigate against, prepare for, respond to, and recover from threatened or actual natural disasters, acts of terrorism, or other man-made disasters. Now, let's talk about the principles of emergency management. The principles of emergency management must be first, comprehensive. Comprehensive is emergency managers consider and take into account all hazard, all phases, all stakeholders, and all impacts relevant to disasters. This is about progressive. Emergency managers anticipate future disasters and take preventive and preparatory measures to build disaster-resistant and disaster-resilient communities. Third is about risk-driven. Emergency managers use sound risk management principles or hazard identification, risk analysis, and impact analysis in assigning priorities and resources. Next is integrated. Integrated is emergency managers ensure unity of effort among all levels of government and all elements of community. Next is collaborative. Collaborative is emergency managers create and sustain broad and sincere relationships among individuals and organizations to encourage trust, advocate a team atmosphere, build consensus, and facilitate communication. Next is coordinated. Coordinated is about emergency managers synchronize the activities for all relevant stakeholders to achieve a common purpose. 7 is flexible. Emergency managers use creative and innovative approaches in solving disaster challenges. And last is about professional. Professional is emergency managers value a science and knowledge based approach based on education, training, experience, ethical practice, public stewardship, and continuous improvement. Now let's talk about the steps of emergency management. There are there are 5 steps of emergency management. First is prevention, second, mitigation, third, preparedness, fourth, response, and fifth is recovery. Prevention, action taken to avoid an incident, stopping an incident from occurring, deterrence operations, and surveillance. Prevention focuses on preventing human hazards primarily from potential natural disasters or terrorists, both physical and biological attacks. Preventive measures are designed to provide more permanent protection from disasters. However, not all disasters can be prevented. Next is about mitigation. Mitigation refers to measures that prevent an emergency, reduce the chance of an emergency happening, or reduce the damaging effects of unavoidable emergencies. Typical mitigation measures include establishing building codes and zoning requirements, installing shutters, and constructing barriers such as sleeves. The third is preparedness. Activities increase a community's ability to respond when a disaster occurs. Typical preparedness measures include developing mutual aid agreements and memorandums of understanding, training for both response personnel and concerned citizens, conducting disaster exercises to reinforce training and test capabilities and presenting all hazards education campaigns. Next is about response. Action carried out immediately before, during, and immediately after a hazard impact, which are aimed at saving lives, reducing economic losses, and alleviating suffering. Response actions may include activating the Emergency Operations Center, evacuating threatened populations, opening shelters, and providing mass care, emergency rescue and medical care, firefighting, and urban search and rescue. Next is about the recovery. Recovery means action taken to return a community to normal or near normal conditions, including the restoration of basic services and the repair of physical, social, and economic damages. Typical recovery actions include debris cleanup, financial assistance to individuals in governments, rebuilding of roads and bridges and key facilities, and sustained mass care for displaced human and animal population. And next is 4 goals of emergency. First is about save lives. Second, prevent injuries. Third is protect property. And fourth is protect the environment. And that's all for my report, and these are my references, and thank you for listening.